in his khaki shorts with no socks to cover his long, dirty toenails.
Joining me now is civil rights attorney and former New York prosecutor Charles F. Coleman, Jr. Charles, I want to talk to you about what we're going to see today in the rebuttal, I should say. But first, I have to ask you about what we heard from that defense attorney there, the long, dirty toenails, because I know for you it was evocative of some very specific and painful imagery.
You're absolutely right. What we saw was racism used as a legal strategy. What we saw in that moment was George McMichael's attorney deciding to evoke images of a runaway slave and how she chose to characterize Amaud Arbery in that moment. And for the life of me, I can't understand why that may be, but the only answer that I have is that when you're an attorney and you're trying cases, you have to know your audience. So something about that venue, something about that forum, something about that jury has given her the inkling that she may be able to trigger something latent, some sense of bigotry or racism somewhere in that courtroom that is going to be to her client's advantage. But what I saw in that moment, like so many others, was reprehensible. And it's unquestionable that in that moment, what she tried to do was characterize Amaud Arbery as if he were some runaway, and as if her client and the other two defendants were part of a slave patrol intended to track him down and bring him in. And I found that to be extremely problematic. I have no idea why she would have engaged that, other than she feels like it's going to resonate with the jury somehow.
But that's it. I mean, reprehensible, as you said there, but she clearly thinks it will work or might work or that she needs it to work.
I think one of the things that's very interesting about this is that the prosecution has stayed away from race, whereas the defense, particularly yesterday during their summations, really dug into that issue. And again, when you're a trial attorney, you have to know your audience. So thinking about the demographics in Brunswick, Georgia, thinking about the fact that you have 11 white jurors and 1 black juror, it really may be that they think they have a better chance to deal with race in that way than the prosecution does in terms of pointing out that Amaud Arbery was a black man who was hunted down and gunned down by 3 white men. They mentioned it yesterday very briefly during their summation, very briefly. But if you think about the totality of this trial, it was the first time that the prosecution ever named it, never called it out for what it is. And so I don't think that that's by accident. Again, being here in New York, that may be a dynamic that we don't necessarily understand, given the demographics and the cultural makeup of that jury in that town. But something about that courtroom made them feel comfortable doing it.